Hey guys, it's Ritvik back with another video. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the language of Python and teach you some of the basics. So here I've got my PyCharm or text editor set up. If you haven't set up your PyCharm yet, I suggest you go watch my previous video. I have the link up here. If you have done that, let us get on with it. And I suggest you turn on the subtitles. Now, let us talk a bit about language. Let's take English as an example. A sentence in English mainly has three parts, right? The subject, the verb, and an object, alright? So, for example, if I say, I ate the apple, I is the subject, ate is the verb, and the apple is the object. Alright, that is understood. Then there is grammar. What is grammar? Grammar is basically writing this sentence in the correct way. I can't say that I eating the apple. That's not right grammar. Alright, let us relate this with Python. Let us see a code in Python. Now, a code in Python has these parts. It has data, it has the variables that store data, and it has functions which are used to perform various things on variables or data. Alright? Now, you can think of syntax as grammar for a code in Python. Writing the code in the correct way is as important as grammar in English. Alright? So syntax is very important. Now, of course, there are more things other than these basic parts in a code in Python. But for now, for the purpose of this tutorial, these things are enough. Now, let us start with a very basic function known as the print command. What this will do is that it will basically display data on the output screen. Alright, and the syntax for print is just write print and put brackets, and in those brackets you will type in whatever data you want. Say I wanted the computer to display a string onto the output screen. I will put quotes and then write whatever string I want to write. Say hello world. Now if I were to run this program, it shows me the output screen, and on the output screen, as you can see, is printed hello world. Alright, this is pretty basic. Now what if you wanted to print an integer? What will you do? Well, you might have guessed it. You will just put an integer in the bracket, say 1 2 3. Alright, now if I run this, it will print 1 2 3. Simple. Now let us say that you wanted to assign a value to a variable. How would you do that? Say for example, you have to store the value of 95 in the variable a. How would you do that? It's pretty simple actually. You could just type a equals 95. Alright? Now in case you're thinking about it, we can also print a variable. I could just type a equals 95 and I could ask it to print the variable. So I write print and brackets and write the variable a in those brackets like this. Alright, if I run this, it will print 95. Keep in mind, it will not print a. Alright, it will print the value stored in a. Let us talk about operators. Let's say you wanted to add two numbers. Alright, let's say that you wanted to add 95 and 75. Well, it's pretty obvious that you will just put the plus sign in between them. 95 plus 75, right? What would you do to print that? Remember the rule. Whatever you want to print goes inside the brackets. So I write print and inside the brackets I write 95 plus 75. Alright, and if I run this, it will print the sum, which is 170. Alright, similarly you can do subtraction by the same symbol, that is 20. You can do multiplication, that is 7125. You can do division. Oh my god, that's an irrational number. You can also do exponentials, but the operator will not be this. You would write exponentials like this, just two multiplication symbols. Alright, then it will print 95 to the 75th power. It's very big. Alright, now let us talk about a very basic but important function known as the input function. Now this comes in handy when you are asking data input from the user. Alright, say you wanted to build a calculator. How will you ask the user for data? This is where this function comes handy. What is the syntax? It's pretty simple. You write input and some brackets. Now, how will you store the value or data given by the user in a variable? You just write a equals the input. Alright? Now, you must be asking what comes in the brackets over here. Well, for example, you wanted to ask the user to enter a number. How will you ask the user to enter a number? You will want the computer to display a message that will be enter a number. Alright? That message is what's going to come in the brackets. So I write in quotes, remember, in quotes, enter a number. Alright, let us run this and see. It displays the message that we typed in the brackets and it asks us for a number. Alright, for example, I entered 67 and press enter. Now what the computer did is that it stored the value of 67 into the variable a. Alright, now to prove this, I will print the value of a. Alright, so I just write print, in the brackets comes a. You can imagine that you are the computer and you are reading this code. Alright, you will read that a is a variable and the value that is being stored is the input that you are getting from this command right here. Then you go to the next line and see this command that we have to print the value of a. Alright, let's see how it runs. It asks us for a number. We type in a number, 67 again, and we press enter and it prints 67. Alright, this is how you can ask the user for input. Now, one more thing that we have to learn is justifying types of data. What this means is that we have to define which type of data is being stored in a variable. Let me explain. Input means that we are going to ask the user for an input by displaying this message, alright? But the data we are going to get from the user, we don't know whether it is an integer or a string. How will we know that? So the computer just assumes that it is a string and the string gets stored in the variable a. But that is wrong, isn't it? Because we have to ask the user for a number, not a string. How do we define that? How do we define that the input that we are going to get from the user has to be an integer? We define it as this. There is a function known as int or int. What this function will do is that whatever data is in these brackets next to int will be an integer data type. Alright, using that concept we will write the code again. So we have a variable a which will store the value of an integer. Alright, what data will be there? The data will be the input from the user. So the data that the integer function gets comes from the input function. I'll show you. I write the similar input statement and the computer understands that whatever value we get from the user has to be an integer. Alright? This is the correct way to do it. Now let us read it from a computer's point of view. So we have a variable called a which stores the value of an integer which stores the value of the input given by the user by displaying this message, enter a number. Let us test this out by printing a value bigger than the number. I type print brackets a plus 1. Alright, now if I run this, it asks me to enter a number. I enter say 2 and then it prints a value greater than 2 by 1, which is 3. Alright, so this is very important when you're building a calculator or any sort of mathematical program. We have to ensure that the input given by the user is an integer. But now you might be asking, hey Ritvik, what happens when we give the computer a string? Well, I'll show you. I type in a string and press enter. It shows me an error because a string clearly, obviously, cannot be converted into an integer. Alright? Similarly, if we want to define the input given by the user as a string type data, we just type str instead of int. str is the short form for string. Alright? This is another function. Now, and if I run this, it will take it as a string. Alright. Now another basic concept in any of the programming languages is a condition. The if or else statement is a condition. It is a very interesting concept and is very important in many programs. Let's say that we have a variable a which stores the value of an integer again, and which stores the value of input given by the user by displaying the message enter a number. Alright, same goes for another variable which we will call b. Alright, now we have two variables a and b which store the value of an integer type data, and that data are the inputs given by the user. Let's say that you wanted to find out which of those numbers is greater. Alright, it's a simple concept, but how will you do it? This is where conditions come in. Now, saying this in English, it will feel like if A is greater than B, then we have to print A. Or if B is greater than A, then print B. Alright? To translate that into Python is not that complicated. I just type if and then I type the condition A is greater than B, and now I put on a colon, alright, which are these two dots. Now why are we putting this colon? It's like grammar, you know, the way I explained it, it's syntax. Alright, then I press enter and you'll notice that there's a default indent. Alright, that is again syntax. This indent is the amount spaced by the tab key. Then after we write the condition, we have to write the action that has to be done if the condition is true. So I write, what if A is greater than B? Then what will happen? We want to print the greater number, right? So in this condition, A is the greater number. So we will want to print A, right? But what if this condition is false? We have to write a backup, right? What will I do for that is that I will type else and then put a colon, and then I will write print b. Now again, let us understand this. Now the computer takes two variables which store the value of the numbers given by the user. Then comes an if or else statement. Now the computer reads it that if this condition right here is true, then what the computer will do is that it will do this action. But if this condition is false, it will go on to plan B, which is stored under else. Alright, so whatever you want to happen, if this condition is false, you put it in the else column. Alright, so now if A is greater than B, then the computer will print A. Else, if this condition is proved false, then it will do this action, which is print B. Alright, let us just see what happens in this code. Let's see, it asks us for a number, I type in 6. It asks us for another number, I type in 5. What will happen is that it should print 6 because A is greater than B, right? So it will print A, which is 6. Yes, as expected, it prints 6. Alright, but now you might be asking that what if I have multiple conditions? Like there's also a possibility that A and B might be equal. In that case, the computer will also print B, right? But that is wrong because B is not greater than A, it is equal to A. For multiple conditions, or as it is known as in programming languages, cases, we type in what's known as Elif. Now this Elif is a short form for else if. This provides a third case. Alright, so I type in Elif A equals B and then colon, then do this action, print the string or display out a message, they are equal. Alright, now how this program will work is that it will try these two conditions before moving on to the backup plan B. Alright, let's read it from the point of view of a computer. So it asks for the input and stores it in A and B. If A is greater than B, then it will do this action, which is print A. Else if this condition is proved false, then try this condition. Is this condition true? If it is true, it will display out the message or print the string, they are equal. Alright, now if this condition is also proved wrong, it will go to the backup plan, which is stored under else, which is to print B. Alright, so let us see how this program is run. Yes, see that? That is an expected error because Python understands this equals to as an assigning operator. See, in here we have assigned the value of a variable A to the value of an integer given by the user. Similarly in B, but the computer will now think that A is being redefined, right? So in Python, there is another command that is used specifically for conditions. That is equals equals. We just put the equals to sign twice. What this will do is that it will just try out if A equals B. It will not mistake it for redefining. Alright, this is again grammar or syntax. It is another rule of Python, you can say. Now if I run it, it will have no problem. So I enter a number let's say 6 again, and I type in 5. Now it should print 6 again, same result as last time. But let us put in two equal numbers. What will it do? And now it displayed out the message, they are equal. This is expected as it tried out this condition, but it proved to be wrong. So it moved on to the next condition to check if it is true, and it turned out to be true because A equals or equals B. So it executed this action, which is to print the string they are equal. But what happens if we print 5 and 6? It will print out 6 because neither of these two conditions proved to be true. So it moved on to the backup plan, which is to print B. Alright? And you can use it in many things, such as building a calculator, checking if you are eligible to vote or not, and many other programs. Oh, and by the way, you should be able to build a calculator by now. Alright, try it out yourself. Try building a calculator. Now, I will explain how to build a calculator in my next video. If you have any doubts, leave them in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.